So as we take a look around the box, we can see that it's got 48 colours and they're all 17mm in size. On the front of the box it says the paints are high durability paints, valid for brush and airbrush, brighter colour range, and comes with an aluminium tray. As we take a look at the back of the box, if I just zoom out a tiny bit, hopefully we'll be able to make out the text on the box, guys. If you want to find out exactly what colours are included in this set, then please pause the video and you can read what's included in the set. Taking the paints out of the box, they all come packaged like so in this fantastic tray. Now the tray is solid, guys, it's really thick and it won't buckle, so the tray is a fantastic addition to the paints. Now the paints themselves come in handy dropper bottles, and if you're like me, guys, I absolutely hate the pots that Games Workshop paints coming in, and I much prefer dropper bottles. They're much more convenient to use, especially if you use a palette to paint with, as you can get exact amounts for mixing ratios and that sort of thing. Okay, I've primed a few miniatures and we're going to do a few paint tests with the Scale 75 paints, and we'll get started with that. Okay guys, so let's just start with this paint here, which is Mayhern red, and if we give the paint a little shake and then we can place a drop on the palette like so. And as you can see, the paint is quite thin, thinner than Games Workshop paint, which I personally prefer. And as we add some water to the bristles of the brush and we thin the paint down, you can see that it keeps its consistency even when we keep thinning it down, which is absolutely fantastic for layer painting. What you'll find with certain brands of acrylic paints is when you thin it down, the medium and the paint breaks up and it's hard to get a consistent paint. But with these Scale 75 paints, they thin absolutely beautifully. Now as I apply some of the paint to the miniature, I'm just going to thicken that up a bit because I actually thinned it way too much. And I've just placed one on a handy little paint holder, and we can see how it paints. Now as I mentioned a moment ago, I like to paint with really thin paint, and this goes down on lovely. If you want to paint straight out of the pot though, and you don't want to thin it, it gives pretty much one coat coverage over white. And it's still relatively thin paint as well, guys, I may add, even painting straight out of the pot, but that's not my particular style. So this is pretty much one-to-one with water here, and you can still see it's great coverage, but you're going to need about 2 coats to get it to be a solid colour. I'm just going to turn my lamp on a bit actually, guys, throw a bit of light on it. And you can see that's a really nice paint. One thing to note with these paints, guys, is that here we've got Green Skin Flesh. Now I'm not sure if I've used this one yet. No, I haven't. You have to pierce each one of the lids with a pin as they're blocked. Now that's a good thing because that means that the paints are completely fresh when you get them. There's no air got to the paints at all. It's an impossibility as they're sealed. So to actually make them usable, get yourself a pin, prod the top, and the paint will start to flow out. We're just going to test another paint now. So here we've got Geraldine Turquoise, and I don't believe I've used this. I have actually used this paint let's try one that I haven't used, and I'll show you me piercing the lid. Here's one, Herald Blue I believe it's called, and I've used this one as well. Here we have Haster Purple, and I haven't opened this one yet guys, but as you can see, just placing a drawing pin or a pin into the lid like so, taking it out, and we'll give the paint a good shake actually, and we'll test it on the miniature. And as you can see again, the paint comes out really nice and smooth and thin. We'll add some water to the palette, and again you can see it thins absolutely beautiful guys. And I'll place some onto the miniature like so, and we'll place some purple over the red, show you how it covers. Really nice. This is the purple undiluted. Pretty much one coat coverage guys, but I don't recommend to paint like this. I recommend thinning the paint down a little and then painting in thin layers and building them up like so. Really nice colour, really like that colour. Okay, I'm going to test a few more paints, but there's no point in testing all 48 paints as they're all going to have the same sort of consistency. It's just to show you that how they look on the miniature. So let's try a few other paints. I painted the Scale 75 Abyssal Warlord recently, and I started to paint his flesh with this Hellbound flesh tone. I really like this colour. I don't think there's an equivalent that I'm aware of in Games Workshop's range that looks the same as this, but I really like this flesh tone for sort of like undead and decaying flesh. Put some on the palette. Going to thin it down a little, and we'll just paint his face. It's a really nice colour, and as I say, it's quite unusual in tone. Another great flesh colour is Undead Flesh, and you can actually use the Hellbound flesh and the Undead Flesh in conjunction with each other. That's what I did on my Abyssal Warlord, and I think it came out quite nice. So let's just show you some of the Undead Flesh. Again, the consistency of these paints is so consistent that when you place them on the palette, as you can see, if I zoom in a little, you can see all of those paints I've placed down so far on the palette have all been solid colours, no separation between the medium and paint, which is really good. So let's paint maybe this leg with the Undead Flesh, and this is straight out of the pot. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, if you don't like thinning your paints very much, these are much better than Games Workshop in the sense that they're not really thick paints, so you're not going to clog up the details straight out the bottle. But again, I still say thin them a little bit and paint in 2 thin layers, and you'll get even better results that way around. But as you can see, None of that lovely detail has been clogged up, and I painted straight from the bottle there. Okay, we'll just try a few other colours. This is Chink Orange. And you can see I've placed it here on the palette. This would be brilliant for rust effects and that sort of thing, guys, or as a base tone for orange, and then working up to a lighter orange from this base tone. As you can see, again, lovely coverage. Really like this paint. There you go. We'll try one last colour, and then I'll show you some finished miniatures that I painted using Scale 75 paints. Okay, I've placed some waste green on the palette, which you can see here. And the reason I picked this colour because it's so bright and vibrant, almost luminous in sort of tone. I'm just going to thin this down a little, and we'll place some on the leg of our miniature here. I really like this colour. This would be good for adding pustules and slime to undead models and sort of like Nurgle, that sort of thing. Really nice colour. And as you can see, it goes down beautifully on the miniature there. Here you can see I've finished the Abyssal Warlord using pretty much exclusively Scale 75 paints, apart from some metallics. But all the actual other colours that you see on the Warlord are Scale 75, and I just really love those undead flesh tones that I used on his face. As you can see, I painted in really thin layers on the shield, and I was able to get some pretty nice colour blends. But even so, towards the end of painting the Abyssal Warlord, I actually stopped colour blending and just painted it regularly. But you might see a bit of blend work that I did on some of the armour panel down there and on the shield. But the paints are so nice, guys. I really like them. If you have Scale 75 paints, guys, let me know in the comments field down below what you think of them. These are different to the Scale colour paints in the fact that the Scale colour paints leave an ultra matte finish. These leave a nice matte finish, but the Scale colour ones leave an ultra matte finish. So they're slightly different, the Scale colour to the game and fantasy paints I've personally found. Here you can see, if I zoom in a little, I used some of the oranges and the yellow to paint this miniature. Now, I've done a tutorial on the Warlord, and I've done a tutorial on this Infinity miniature as well. So if you check on my videos recently, you'll be able to watch both those tutorials using these fantasy and game paints. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think of the paints. If you have them, let others know what you think of the paints. Don't forget to check the description box down below, and you can go and check out the web store of Scale 75. And thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.